Do you know about Kangadoo? Well, you should. It's an iPhone app that's going to make your life easier. Go check them out. Kangadoo. Here we go. Another mom interview. Another entrepreneur that I get the opportunity to speak with. I'm super excited, as always. Today, it's Stacey Delo of MayBrooks.com. I noticed MayBrooks this year. Yeah, early in this year. And I was like, ooh, look at this. This is very interesting. I was very intrigued immediately because it's a person's name. And then I went onto the site and I was like, oh, this is about women. This is about moms. So I just began watching MayBrooks.com. Good. And then I had the opportunity to meet you. So everyone, this is Stacey Delo. Stacey, tell me about yourself and what you're doing and your kids and who you are.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for having me, Lane.
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a fan of everything that you're doing as well and appreciate the fact that you found us. So yes, MayBrooks is a real name. MayBrooks was actually my great-grandmother, and she went to work during the Depression because she had to, and then worked for 35 years because she loved to. Wow. And so when we started this site, which really wasn't probably much earlier than when you discovered us, we launched, kind of soft launched in December of last year. We really wanted to name the site, although it's about working moms, we wanted it to feel beyond just moms, that it was a site for women who love to work and for women who work because they have to work. So I'm the founder and CEO of the company. I was a journalist for many, many years at the Wall Street Journal online, and just saw a need in the market, and so we've been working on it ever since. I'm also the mom of two. I have a 3.5-year-old little girl and a 17-month-old little boy, so it's crazy.
Okay, two.
Under the age of 4.
Exactly. And launching a company, which is yeah. Okay, so we're going to get into that.
Good.
Tell me about how you, so you were a writer on the Wall Street Journal online, and you recognized some kind of opportunity, obviously. There was a hole in the market, and you wanted to fill that hole. You had this, tell me about your aha moment of like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So I actually was an online video correspondent, and we transitioned from all of the fancy schmancy stuff to Skype several years ago. So this feels very comfortable to me to be talking on Skype. Yeah. So kudos to you for that. But yeah, when I had my daughter, I decided that the long story is that I had just been offered this great opportunity while I was pregnant to host and launch the initial live technology show for the WallStreetJournal.com, WSJ.com. And it was a really big opportunity. And when with my belly growing and growing, I was so excited to be hosting the show. I moved to New York for a few months to do it. And I said, you know what, I'll be back in 6 weeks, no problem. I'll be back in 6 weeks to take over the show again. And then I had my daughter, and I thought, I won't be back in 6 weeks. And I ended up taking closer to 6 months off. And at that point, I negotiated, I saw a line in the maternity leave paperwork that you could negotiate down to part-time. And so I did. And when I did that, a lot of women started asking me, well, how did you do that? What kind of language did you use to present your pitch? And it started getting me thinking about, wow, where would I have gone to find the resources to, know that I could have been able to do that before I found it, just over spilled milk and coffee, and also to know how to make the right kind of pitch to an employer. And that started me thinking a little bit about how many women we all know who also have what I call big brains, big education, and big experience, who really struggle with whether to go part-time, whether to completely leave the workforce, and what their options are. And so when I started looking at it from that perspective and realizing that I didn't feel like there was a site out there that did all of those things together, I still really started researching a concept, and that's how the site came to be.
Wow. I was just thinking about the oh, of course I can go back in 6 weeks and do this job, right? Like as a new mom, even no problem.
Yeah,
I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my baby with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you realize, I cannot realize, and you had the opportunity to take 6 months, which is fantastic.
It's huge.
That
huge.
is amazing.
Yes.
Right?
And most of that wasn't paid. So it's also, it's a
choice.
financial decision as a family.
Right. Oh, fantastic. So you had this idea, obviously, and from that moment of like, oh, this is missing, I want to do this. How long did it take you to create it?
So it probably took us about 18 months, really from the initial concept phase till there was a site that you could actually see. Yeah. And part of that was because I was working part-time, and part of it was because I really wanted to pull in the right people to get their opinions about whether there was something here and worthwhile starting in terms of a market size. And so, just between researching and putting together a plan, and then really reaching out to the right people to ask those questions, it took about that long. Once the site kind of came to what we knew would go on the site, it went pretty quickly from there.
Yeah, that development phase, the ideology, the concept phase is really, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs don't kind of take that time that's necessary. I love to hear that it took you longer.
A while.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I'm a big believer in the fact that because it's so inexpensive to start sites right now, you can really get something out there and test it. Yeah. So I would advise people not to wait too long because the moment can pass you by. But I've done enough things, kind of seat of the pants, if you will, kind of the quick start personality type. And I think with this one, I just did want to make sure that my research was really in place. And that's come into play a lot with meetings where people ask a lot about what the market size is, what the competitor landscape is. And if you haven't done that research, then it doesn't come across well.
You have to have that research.
Right. But the beauty of getting the site up is then you collect the data, you have something to show that you put your best foot forward. I go to a lot of conferences, and there are a lot of people in that ideation phase, and it's tough to communicate to the people that you might want to get buy-in to what you're doing if you don't have anything to show. So it is you have to figure out what works best for you, I guess.
Yeah. And what works best with your family, right?
Yes.
At what stage you're all at.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. You have to really, I was on a panel last week, and it was all about workplace flexibility, and we were talking about how when you have workplace flexibility, and maybe you're working at home or launching your own business, as so many women are doing, as you and I have talked about, you actually work all the time.
Yeah.
And while it might be flexible, you have to also make some structure for yourself, because it can just be overwhelming.
All-encompassing is what I think of.
Yes, it is. It's all that your brain thinks about. And if you have a family and you have other people to take care of, you have to make some boundaries, I guess, on when to turn something on and turn it off.
Right. So important. So important. And so with the launch, were you nervous or anxious about it at all?
Yes.
You were?
Yes. It's a little bit like Field of Dreams, where if you build it, they will come, right? So you've hopefully done enough research to know that. Yeah. But when you're small and bootstrapping, you don't have a big marketing budget. So there's not a ton of, wow, this site launched. Nobody really cares. It's like a tree falling in the forest. And so, that's a great question. we're glad that they did come. We've benefited a lot from word of mouth, which is a fantastic organic way to market.
So you just said that you bootstrapped. Right?
Yes.
And has that been challenging? Would you say that that's an obstacle for you? Or was that a choice that you guys made?
It's a choice. And there's so much to consider when you think about either if you want to open it up and take money and that kind of thing. There's so many different layers to that.
Yep.
To me, I'm from the Midwest. Both my parents run their own businesses, and it was important to me for me to put the money into it to show that this was something that I was really behind. Yeah. And then also to start to show that we could get some revenue in the door on our own. And that was that's a personal thing to me. I think just learning a lot about the way that startups and small businesses operate, that's also a very personal decision.
It's so interesting, Stacey, because I my whole life has been about entrepreneurs, and so women, they don't go after funding. They're very tight-pursed about everything. They're very smart, and they pinch pennies, whereas men are like, let's get the funding and let's throw money at it, and it's so different, right?
It's so different. And believe me, I've been having that conversation with myself. And I'm getting closer to feeling that way, because if you really want something to make it and sing and be big, you want a lifestyle business, then the way that we've been doing it is probably the right way to go. But if you want it to be, if you feel like it could be bigger, then it's probably not a long-term strategy. Unless you can start really raking in the revenue. And I know, there are plenty of friends of mine who've started businesses where they've waited years to take funding, but they've been really successful. Yeah. So there are different models.
It is. It's just a personal preference, and it's really interesting just to see the differences between men and women, and then even take it a step further to see moms.
Yes.
Moms are very different as well. They're even one step back from women. And I don't want to separate the two, but it's just interesting as somebody who's been talking to a lot of mom entrepreneurs.
Yeah. What are you finding? I think that's a fascinating...
It is very fascinating that mom entrepreneurs will stay more lifestyle, will stay more closed purse, will stay small. And there is a tiny percentage that'll play big or go home, and it's so interesting to me. What is that? What's holding you back? Is it the family element of really I have a family and I have to support them and I have to do this and this is my first priority? I'm still watching. I'm still kind of gathering data on that.
No, it's really great to think about it. I'm so excited about all of the various groups like you that are starting to support women entrepreneurs and mom entrepreneurs, and then also some funding sources that are targeted just at women. So Pipeline Fellowship is one of them. Only invests in female-founded companies. And some of the crowdsourcing companies that are growing up, I guess, as we speak. And there's one in particular that's focused on women. So good stuff.
It's slowly, it's moving. We're moving in that direction. Who's helped you with all of this?
Great question. So I have had a team of contractors, and I have an advisory board that's been just absolutely amazing. A good group of people with different skill sets, which I think is really important for people as they think about starting a business, to bring in people that have skill sets that you don't have. And really find, in our case, the developer was really key. And so we found a really great developer.
That's fantastic. And I want to talk about your family life a little bit. Okay. Because I love how the family kind of mixes into this. I mean, it plays a huge role, right, in the entrepreneurial life. And so how have things changed for you, right? Like all of a sudden now first you had one kid, now you have two kids. You have a husband, obviously. Yep. Not obviously, I don't mean to say that. Well, yeah.
It's another, him. He does live here.
And then there's like, social time, right? Yep. Adult time. How do you kind of manage and work all that? Like, what's that like for you?
So I feel like every day is like being shot out of a cannon, for lack of a better way to put it, which I think is a little bit of how I've always lived my life, so it doesn't feel that different. There's some really good things about the fact that my kids are so young. They're so young that it's a very physical time where their needs are very, friends with older kids always tell me that as their kids get older, it changes from being a physical need to more of like a mental need. And we're in that physical stage right now where everybody needs help getting dressed and one's still in diapers and that kind of thing. So my days they just feel like a workout, right? And then as soon as they're in bed, I'm back online and that kind of thing. So it's a really busy day. And then I have a husband who commutes like an hour away, and so is at work a lot. Mm-hmm. But we also, we're really careful about protecting our weekends. And because I don't have to be at an office, I've shed a lot of the guilt that I felt about being stuck somewhere else and not close to my kids. So even if I'm working a lot and my nanny will be here with the children, I'm still at home. And so I'm good at separating them. When I'm working, I'm really not with my kids. That's one thing that we think a lot about because of the market that we're serving, where all of these pictures that if you ever go on like iStock photo or whatever, all of the pictures are women pulling their hair out with their kids hanging on them as they're typing on the computer. And I find that so false.
Yeah, it is.
Because when I'm working, my kids aren't here today and I'm here at home. They're not here. But I do, if they're here, I can come and go, or I'm closer to them as a result of this, and I am more flexible. As a result of that, and I'm sorry to keep going on about this, but as a result of that, I'm truly the CEO of the house, right? I mean, there's another job all the time in the background.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
But it's good. And, when kids are young, it's so hard to have a social life anyway. So, we get together with friends whose kids are about our age. And, hopefully someday we'll be able to, like, go out for dinner again.
Do you feel like your romantic or your partnership has suffered any through all of this? I mean, I know for me, go, like it definitely changes things.
Yeah. I think it's constantly something that we end up checking in about just because it's really easy when you're that tired to just let it all go. And, I think we're getting better at it. We have a really good, strong relationship, but it's definitely something that we both make an effort to keep it going.
Sure.
It's hard.
You have to pencil it in. It's like, it's not an uncommon thing for that to have like a calendar.
I know.
I know. Does your husband appreciate you being an entrepreneur, or where is he on the fence on that?
He has just been, and it always sounds so cliche, he's been amazing, but he really has been. He was absolutely supportive of of really taking the plunge,
Yeah.
which is a financial plunge for as a family as well, living in a big city, and then has just been extraordinarily supportive about really it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster to start a company as well, and he's been really helpful just through all of that. And I respect it a lot because it puts a lot on his shoulders to have me do this. And, he's supporting the family essentially as we get this thing off the ground. And that's changing a little bit because the business is growing. But I can't thank him enough really for that. And also I will say, he's been really respectful of the drive that it takes to want to do something like this. Yeah. And it's not for everybody. It's starting a business, and I'm learning a lot about it too, where some days you're like, wow, did I really do that? I don't think he sees it as something he would ever want to do. And so as a result of that, looks at it with some admiration, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. I think it's key to have a partner who totally supports you in this. I think if that is missing, it's not possible.
Yeah, and I'm always a little taken back by a conversation like that because it's hard to understand how you could do it if you didn't have a supportive partner.
Yeah, I don't know. How about any kind of any failures that you've had?
Oh, along the way.
Yeah.
There's probably too many to recount. I think one of the best messages about startups is that you really do want to fail. You want to try something and apologize later, and also retweak. So, little things that we've tried on the site where they don't fly.
Right.
Even though you really thought that they would, you just make a change and keep going. So that's the best part about the internet, really, about web businesses, is that you can make those small changes and just keep going.
And how long does it take you to figure that out?
That's a question that I think is a really tough one to answer. I came from a background, online videos we were talking about, where in the news business, every day you produce something or lots of things. Yeah. It's a very fast-moving business, and yet you still want people to read your things and make sure that they get distributed. And so I learned a lot there about tweaking headlines or whatever to make sure that somebody would click on it and open the news. And I think I've taken here I've tried to be a little calmer about it and less real time, that you have to give something a little breathing time. And that could be different. There's one, I'm thinking of like one functionality that we put on the site, and we really let it live there for several months, and it never got a ton of traction. And that might have been too long, and yet when you're new and you're little, you're still collecting a lot of new eyeballs, and so you just don't know. So I would caution people on not being too, like herky-jerky, I guess is the best way to say it.
Sure.
Give something a chance.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on that. Any kind of fears that you've faced in the last, year and a half, 2 years with MayBrooks?
Yeah, I think a fear of can I manage it all? Can I really handle all of it? That means the business and kids and husband and family and all the other commitments. Is this really a good time to do this, or is it a silly time to do this? And I had a lot. I'm a risk taker, so it wasn't it wasn't that long of pondering all of this, and probably looking back, I ponder it more. But that just the, fear of failure. That's the main thing. And that's what drives me every day, is to not fail.
Right. And, you just kind of brought up this, can I have it all?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's such this topic of this year is like, can women have it all?
Right.
And,
it is.
For you, do you think that you have found that? Are you finding that you have it all? I mean, you're really kind of like pushing it out there as, this is a possibility for mom entrepreneurs and women. So
I set the definition for what I wanted to do, and that's what I have. If that means having it all, then great. There are certainly, I don't play tennis right now. I would love to play tennis. So in that regard, I don't have it all. I'm not, I don't have a ton of extracurricular activities that might make my life more enriching in some way. Mm-hmm. But these are the things that I decided were important to me. And I've been able to do it in a way that feels right. And I think that that's a really huge message for women in this conversation around having it all, or work-life balance, whatever you want to, which I don't love that term, but whatever you want to call it, it's finding the fit that works the best for you. We have a link on the site that says, find the right fit, find your right job fit. Yeah. And I really believe that there is that for everybody out there. You may have to look for it and tweak it a little bit until you get there. But for me, I feel like I'm in that fit. I would be more upset not doing what I'm doing than I would be today.
That's perfect, right? Like you're doing what you want to do.
Right.
And you get to define what that looks like, which is brilliant. And
I know that when you're in a job, sometimes it feels and I've been there before, where you're like, well, how could I leave? How could I leave this great setup? And yet I'm not really fulfilled. And that's where fear really factors in, right? There's a lot of anxiety around change. And my biggest message is that there are great employers out there for women across the spectrum, full-time, part-time, contract-based opportunities. Yeah. And you might have to put a little elbow grease into finding them, but they're there, and that's, that's one of the reasons that we have our site, because the jobs are there to show you.
That's fantastic. Do you have any kind of daily routine that you participate in to kind of keep your head straight?
No. And if somebody has a suggestion, I would love that.
Because I know that as mom entrepreneurs, I know for myself, it's like there are so many things kind of rambling on up there, right? And then I have a day planner that keeps everything. And then I have a Google Calendar that right? And then I have a kid who's 4 who talks all the time. And then I have a husband. And then I have a social life, right?
Yep.
And so if I don't have something that I do every day to kind of keep me calm, I'm a basket case.
Right.
So do you have anything that you do? Or, I've heard all kinds of great things.
In addition to a glass of wine.
Sure. That could be it, right? Like even giving yourself permission to do that, because some moms are like, nope, not doing that.
Yeah,
right?
No. I really enjoy, one thing I do is my daughter's in preschool. I always take her and pick her up, or my husband does. That's really important to us, and I really enjoy that piece of the day, because I get to interact with other little people and the teachers and my daughter and that kind of thing, and that's just kind of a nice pick-me-up all the time. I've gotten really good about the threes, 3 goals for the quarter, 3 goals for the month, 3 goals for the week, 3 to-dos for the day, and that's helped. That's helped with planning and staying on track and feeling like you've made some progress. When you can, knock those things off of the list. So those are big things. And then I do, when our kids go to bed, my husband and I really do sit down. We try to sit down for at least 10 to 20 minutes to have a glass of wine together and catch up about the day and really make a point of it, because that helps me just kind of calm down a little bit from the day. And I think for him as well, and talk about what's coming up tomorrow and that kind of thing.
That's great. Do you have any hot tips that you want to offer?
Hot tips.
Hot tips.
In it for anything?
Yep, anything. I mean, anything. Mom-centric, life-centric, business-centric, anything.
Oh my goodness. We get so many, I feel like I can steal so many great tips, because we feature all these great women on our site, and we have the CEO of Urban Sitter is featured today, and she has this amazing tip where she, in order to preserve her clothes before she walks out the door, she gets dressed in the morning and then puts her robe on to make sure that she doesn't get like sticky fingers and, cream cheese on her clothes. And I thought that was so genius.
Brilliant.
I would have to start this.
Yeah.
So that's the one that's kind of on my mind today, because we just published that piece.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big like leftover type person. So I always feel like my best advice is in the kitchen in terms of making things really work throughout the week. A great example is we made white bean chicken chili a week ago, and we had all of this chicken chili left over. What are we going to do with this? And so I strained the chili and then put it in tortillas to make enchiladas. Delicious. And they were so good. Yeah. So it's little things like that where I'm always looking for, how are we not going to waste this, and do something quick where I don't actually have to really cook again.
No, that's brilliant. That's a great tip, being smart in the kitchen.
Smart in the kitchen.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Well, Stacey, thank you so much for taking the time with me today and talking about MayBrooks and being a mom and an entrepreneur. I've loved talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane, and same to you. Congratulations on all you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
Don't forget, Kangadoo, make your life easier. KangadooApp.com.